Hi, my name's Arsalun Tafazoli. I'm the founder of co-founder of a local restaurant and bar group called Consortium Holdings. We have 13 restaurants. There's 6 restaurants, 5 bars. We have an organic cold pressed juice business, a barbershop. We really pride ourselves on sort of cultivating these community institutions. For those, I don't know if you guys are in the area, we have Polite Provisions and Soda and Swanee under the 30th year, Underbelly North Park. In Little Italy, we have another Underbelly, Ironside Fish and Oyster, Craft and Commerce, Noble Experiment, Neighborhood, El Dorado, just a pretty, if you guys any would know them, I mean, while we think their core values are the same, they have very different personalities and very different kind of places. But when we kind of, at its inception, our first place was Neighborhood. And for myself, I grew up middle class. I'm from San Diego. Grew up between Mira Mesa and Claremont, and I went to UCSD. And I was really just, trying to build a consistent sort of life for myself. Everyone's like, do what you're passionate about. And you get all these sound bites and all these sort of terms. And for myself, I didn't know that. I felt like if I took my education far enough, someone will give me a job to do something, I'll get a paycheck, and I can get a mortgage, and I can just, and live a somewhat normal, balanced life. And through college, I was kind of like, it was always about just, sort of focus on school. Through school, I came up and going to just the only job. I had a roommate who was a manager of a pretty a bar in Pacific Beach, and it was very much just about sort of bad product, bad entertainment, bad music, and I got a job as a bouncer. And I'm a pretty scrawny guy. Pacific Beach at the time, I'd ask for someone's ID and they just wanted to kick my ass, and it was sort of like I shouldn't have been there. And it was. I'm not as tough as I'm not a fighter. I'm not a boxer, fortunately. It was really awkward for me and a wide of situations. But what it did give me was an opportunity to observe and see people interact with each other. And I would stand there, and I get to stand there night after night and watch people interacting with each other and socializing with each other. And it was really interesting because you just stand there and you see through that how people interact. And when I was kind of going through this phase and trying to just find a modicum of peace and happiness and balance and affection and sort of my life, I started going, and I would really try to, like I said, I came across a study that Harvard had done, and it was basically taking, they did it over 4 generations, and you can take any circumstance. You take socioeconomic status, education, wealth, and the discrepancy when you take sort of rate. If you're poverty stricken, you can't pay your rent, you will take that, and you come into a good sum of money, you're going to be your life satisfaction rate is going to go up. But the person that is comfortable and the person that is really wealthy actually there's a diminishing return. And the one thing that they realized was that, that really stuck and resonated with me, was that we are happiest when we're socializing, we're connecting. All of our best moments are in terms of other people around us. There's never a solitary moment where we have this really sort of great, happy. I guess the best way to say it is we're at our happiest when we're with other people, and we're in sort of group environments and not by ourselves. And they did this, and this was a study they kind of came up with and something that resonated with me. And as I was working this job, I kind of realized that we're a byproduct of our environment. We want to act like we have this really strong sense of individuality, and we do, but we are a product of our environment. That shapes who we are and what we do. And we succumb to that. So if our environment's in a way, we're going to adapt our behavior to reflect what we're around. And I saw that night after, people would come in and they'd get cheap booze put in the face and make really bad decisions. And I would hope that within those instances, and I would see how I would do it, right? So I would act out of character. I'd wake up the next morning and say, what did I do last night? Like, that was just not me. And I would hope that, no one took that, 4-minute kind of portion of what I was doing and judge because it didn't define who I was and what I was doing. It was just a circumstance of being in that environment at that time amongst those people that I just acted out of character. And all of us have those moments where we're douchebags and we were angry or we back call, and it's an inevitable part. And so seeing that, I really wanted to sort of create these environments and make it a place where we can sort of interject sort of values that were important to us and hopefully do it in a more productive, soulful, substance-based way. So go out, focus on the person in front of you, have an engaging conversation. You don't have to have 30 plasma televisions and a bad DJ and cheap booze to have a good time and enjoy the person in front of you. And really just having that sort of, and for myself, I got myself into law school. I was accumulating a lot of debt. I just felt like, hey, I didn't really want to be a lawyer, but I was like, hey, at least I think I can get a job doing this and someone's gonna give me a paycheck. And really sort of realizing that I wasn't gonna be happy doing that. And for myself, I sort of decided that I got really, through my experience, I started to, and knowing, reflection of our city and our environment, I happened to one day get a AleSmith IPA, and it was and I happened to meet the owner of the brewery, and it really, really sort of blew my mind. And it was sort of this kind of, I just had an epiphany in the sense that more local beer at that time was being sold outside in this market than inside this. And this was back before the sort of the craft beer proliferation. And the value, the value of it to me, and watching this person sort of go through it, I was never that sophisticated. So, I would go out on dates and people would, there's a lot of wine drinkers. I would be able to have that glass of wine, and anything that I had that was between $9 and $12, that kind of tasted the same to me. And that, as some guy would, I'd go on a date and a wine tasting, and they'd be like, do you taste this flavor profile and that flavor profile? And I wouldn't get it. And if I remember one time going and I spent $35 on a glass of wine, and I got it, and I was like, this is amazing, but I was broke, and I was really upset that I just spent that much money. And then I was with this girl, and I had to cover the bill, and it would just cause all this anxiety. And so for me, I was like, hey, I have, you get a Bud Light for $4, this AleSmith IPA for an extra $1, and the complexity is there, and it pairs so well with food, and it's so amazing, and yet no one's into this, no one's drinking this, no one's this, and how is that? And for, you kind of realize that most people at that time, they felt like, beer was, it was sort of because of, at least I felt like, because of how that product was marketed by Anheuser-Busch and these larger companies. I remember when I was growing up, the beer commercials were like a bunch of bikini-clad girls and guys playing volleyball at the beach and partying and, bumping chests. And it wasn't something that even every girl I'd go to, they wouldn't want to drink it, they wouldn't want to do it, and they wouldn't really, in the food world, it wasn't getting, chefs wouldn't take it seriously, and there was this subculture of people that are really passionate, doing great things, and I would have these great, these great conversations, and I would understand it, accessible, and through that, I kind of had this obviously concept, a vision to kind of create something that was based on something that was in our own backyard, our own community, and creating a platform where these passionate people can kind of come and we can showcase this. We can show people that, hey, we can pair it with food. It's just as great as wine. And it really sort of, at that time, I kind of decided that I wasn't doing, the best at law school. I decided that I was going to take a job full-time sort of within the industry. My parents didn't after I just made that decision, my parents didn't talk to me for 3 years. You don't want your kid dropping out of school and, out of law school and saying, hey, I'm going to go open a restaurant. It didn't really resonate with them. And they thought I was making the biggest mistake of my life. I shoved them, but that's another conversation. So it was really being able to go out and being able to really look at what we do in the context of cultivating community and trying to create spaces where that matter, that can become the part of the fabric of people's lives, in the sense that at that time, most people, and we had PB, we had Gas Lamp, There wasn't a lot of solar substance. It was very much about, okay, come in. If you're catering to tourists, you're not concerned about building relationships with anybody. You're not concerned to sort of come in, have the utility of the location, and just keep running people through there. And for us, we wanted to sort of foster on a deeper emotional level and create, hopefully give people a platform to come in and just have, celebrate a good time, a bad time. Some of the times we take a lot of pride in is in our restaurants. It's amazing how many people have, met their wife, started families. How many of our staff have had kids now that we've out and been able to sort of, as a result. And it's something that we take an enormous amount of pride in. I will say in the context of, there's something that I'm self-conscious about in the sense that my hardship was much more, I leveraged, I went out when we were starting out and basically put together a business plan. No one really took me seriously. I was young, didn't have a lot of experience. And frankly, when I was I was in the downtown in East Village. Every sort of landlord wanted a Starbucks or some, major chain and wasn't really kind of giving a lot of opportunities to just someone trying to put this, weird vision of what these places should be. And, we basically went out and leveraged every relationship and were able to, I think we had our first project had a total of 13 investors, everything from people that we just found the way to friends to basically really had leveraged everything we had. And the pressure of that, of going to the people that you care about, going to people and them believing in you and really taking the shot was that. And for, we had, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but it was an immense amount of issues that we had. And when we opened our doors and finally got there, no one really showed up. No one really cared. And it was really, really rough. We were one of the first places in San Diego. This is before sort of craft beer had sort of taken off, and what we were doing had kind of proliferated in a much bigger way. And it was probably some of the worst time of my life, at least, and really. To a point where, I had people that had given me their life savings, and you kind of, people, when you have to go and have that conversation down and say, hey, I lost everything you gave me, that in itself in my world is one of the worst conversations you could possibly have with somebody. And at that time, what it looked like was imminent. And it really was, it was pretty rough. With that being said, all through that, we had all the people coming in. It's like, okay, well, this experiment isn't working. Okay, you need to get, go get a bunch of TVs, go get a DJ, go get Bud Light. We didn't have, we had 27 beers on tap, and we didn't have any. We refused. Everything was local. We were local and craft, and sort of Northern California. And I was like, you need to get, people would walk in and say, can I get a Bud Light? We wouldn't have it, and they'd walk out. They wanted, for the things. And not to say that, at that time, just kind of trusting your instincts and really, believing what we were doing and really not sort of compromising on what our ethos and our core values were and really believing in it. I mean, we would sit there and like, this is just too good. It has to work. Why is this failing? Why aren't people seeing this? And it was really gut wrenching and tonight. And I'd go and I'd apply for credit cards at banks, and I'd run our own POS system to kind of keep it working and make payroll because, you've got to staff and for us, we really, really stuck to it. We didn't water down what our vision was. We really believed in what we were doing, and we had to draft and person by person. I mean, we would come in and it was like, hey, they'd ask for, a blue moon, and we'd say, we don't have blue moon, but we have this, Wahoo Wheat by Ballast Point. And back then, Ballast Point was really small, so it's not the thing it was back then. And they were having some of the goals. And it's like, hey, you're going to, you can support something. This is why it's better. And really getting behind every single person. And slowly, I mean, we really, we built it. And not to say that, we were very fortunate. I don't want to drink our own Kool-Aid in the sense that the culture also took off simultaneously. And we were at the forefront, which really sort of helped. And, you can't dismiss, I don't want to say that it's because you have to acknowledge luck as it sort of happens. But I'm a firm believer that if you believe in what you're doing and you really, really work hard at it, and it's something that's really true to you, you're going to obviously prevail or have a better shot. I mean, that's sort of that. And for us, it was pretty incredible after year 2. I mean, we were doing probably 8 times the sales we were, the year before, and it just continually started to better. We continued to do sort of product-centric base play, things that we were passionate about and really believed in, and from different and ultimately people were very receptive and really supported us, and it's been pretty incredible.